Welcome to the very first episode of Why We Nurse, a podcast where we explore the heart, hustle, and humanity behind the nursing profession. I'm your host, Serena Tobar, and I'm so excited that you're here. This podcast is a space for nurses, future nurses, and anyone curious about the people behind the scrubs. Whether you're just starting out, deep in the trenches, or simply want to hear real stories from the front lines of care, this is for you. Today, I am very welcomed to have a very special guest with us to Why We Nurse. Joining me is Marla Ivaldi, a nurse professional development specialist with 30 years of experience in the surgical post-op, ICU, and nursing professional development. Marla has not only cared for patients with compassion and skill, but has also inspired fellow nurses through her role as a nurse residency coordinator. In this episode, we're diving into the stories behind the scrubs. I'm so excited for you to hear her story, insights, and the wisdom she brings to the nursing community. Welcome to the show, Marla.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you. I'm honored to be your first guest.
Well, I'm so excited that you agreed to this. So, for our first question for you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your nursing journey?
Sure. So, I'm originally from the Midwest, where I actually am again, and I'm really grateful that I'm here. I started out as a nurse. My bachelor's degree is from Millikan University. I have a master's in nursing leadership from the University of Texas Medical Branch, a postmaster's in nursing education from Walden University, and finally an MBA that I got during the pandemic because I didn't have anything else to do from Capella University. So, nurses, we are lifelong learners. And so I feel like I got to practice what I preach. I started out, as you said, on a post-surgical floor in Decatur, Illinois, and quickly realized that the ICU was where I wanted to be. So transitioned to the ICU, decided to travel, left Illinois for 30 years and traveled all over the country as a travel nurse, primarily in ICU, but I love to try new opportunities, which is how I landed in Houston, which is where I met Serena at Memorial Hermann in the trauma ICU. I was scared to death because I had never worked trauma before. I'm a CVICU nurse. And they were like, Marla, it'll be great. You'll be fine. You're going to love it. Got the pleasure to working with Dr. Red Duke there. I have chronic happiness and wake up ready to go every morning. Dr. Duke is not a morning person. And so he would tell me, tone it down, sunshine. It's too early. And so, he got used to me, needless to say. But that is pretty much, I have been obviously a preceptor, a charge nurse, a house supervisor, a manager, director from cardiology to education to, believe it or not, even a short stint for the adult and adolescent behavioral health unit. That was fun. I mean, sincerely, that was fun. I learned a lot. I'm telling you, you do not know what people go through on both sides, the patients and the nurses, until you literally walk in their shoes. So it's been a really great career. The last 10 years has been nursing professional development. And I'm going to kind of tell on one of my friends up in Chicago, she went out on maternity leave. And so I kind of covered the nurse residency while she was out. And when she got back, I didn't want to give it back to her. And so that's what I've been doing. So I'm really grateful that I've had the pleasure of serving in all the roles that I've served in. It's a little bit about my story.
Wow, that is very, very inspiring. You've really done a lot and touched a lot of lives. How did you decide to become a nurse? What inspired you? Was there like a defining moment that you said, I want to be a nurse?
So the person that inspired me was my grandma, Mary Tion. She was an 11 to 7 LPN at the State School for Children in Lincoln, Illinois. And that has got to be the hardest, most, I would say, heartbreaking job. These are orphans who have chronic illnesses. And so what a horrible thing. But she was so compassionate and she just really every day she just went in with the same kind of attitude as, we're going to have a good night. And she would come home in the morning just dead tired because they did all the skills. They're, these are chronically ill kids, ventilators and trachs and the whole shebang. But she really inspired me. And so I was probably in about fourth grade. And of course I was pretty fond of the white hat that she still wore. She wore a white dress, white hose, white shoes, and a white hat to work every day. And I thought, that's kind of cool. I'm actually grateful that we gave up the hats, but that's what inspired me to be a nurse.
I'll be honest, I like the hat too.
sets us apart, doesn't it? Nobody has cool hats like we do.
Exactly. So, Marla, why don't you talk to us about what does a typical day look like for you now? What does that look like?
Okay, so now I have just recently transitioned back to the Midwest. I am working at Memorial Health System in Central Illinois, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to be the system coordinator for the residency program, nurse residency program. So I've been here 31 days in the new job. And so I've been going to the different sites. It's a 5 hospital system in central Illinois. And so I've been visiting the sites, meeting the chief nursing officers, meeting the leadership that are key to the nurse residents. Actually, a lot of people. I've had great meetings with system organizational leadership. I've had meetings with human resources, talent acquisition. I've really just been trying to assess what they have, and really they've got some really great bones, and so I'm very excited, looking forward to what great things we're going to do for the nurse residents in this area.
And just knowing you on a personal level, I know how good you are at building those relationships with those brand new nurses that are just coming from school and getting their first job as a nurse and having to learn how to really be a nurse and how to interact with patients on a different level than what you do in clinical. So I know you're going to do an amazing job there, and they're very lucky to have
Thank
you.
you. I honestly, I feel like I have the best job in the hospital because nobody reports to me. I mean, I am completely neutral. I am there for the residents. I am there for the leadership team. I am there for the CNOs. My job is to make them successful. That is my ultimate job. So, and it's fun. You asked about a typical day. There is no typical day. you know, Meetings, yes, and rounding, how much I love to round. Now I have 5 hospitals, so I have to really be intentional and strategic about how I'm going to go from site to site. And my plan is to get out at least once a week. I'm primarily based in Springfield. And so there are 4 hospitals, and there are typically 4 weeks to the month. And so I'm going to get out to each of those hospitals, and whatever that looks like. And the leaders here have been really welcoming. And so I'm excited to see what's going to happen next.
I know it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So I guess my next question to you is tell us about a memorable patient interaction that has stayed with you.
Well, I think it's the one that my dad would tease me about the most. Had a patient who was essentially a DNR, and she was a COPD patient. And so it was cyclic. She would come in, she'd be on a non rebreather. And every single time I would say, "Are you sure? You sure you don't want the tube?" "No, I don't want the tube. I don't want the tube." So we would literally just pull her back from the edge every single time. And of course, it's debilitating and it's chronic. And so it would get worse and worse. And sometimes we would wonder if we were going to get her back. And we did until the last time. And the family was so grateful that I always said no, because I know what she wants. She has to tell us. And of course, we did do medical decisions and so forth. And she had a spokesperson in her family, but everybody knew what she wanted. So the last time she came into the hospital, we ended up doing comfort care because there was no getting her back that time. And she'd probably been my patient probably for 3 or 4 years. And the nicest thing was the family mentioned me in the obituary, which, I don't know, people may be like, that's a good thing. And my dad got a kick out of that. And he's like, "Well, if you're such a great nurse," I'd say, "Dad," and he was kidding, of course. But I was really touched by that. The fact that the family appreciated over the course of the 3 or 4 years that I took care of her, literally every time she came into the hospital, that I always was her advocate.
It is so
Right.
important. Sometimes we forget about that
Yeah.
advocate part and making sure that, what we're doing is aligning with what our patients would want. So that's a very amazing story and nothing short of what I would have expected from you as an amazing person. So,
I had
thank you for
this
sharing that.
thing as we get done.
Well, you know, tell us the most rewarding part of your job, and I can almost probably guess what it is, but Well, let's hear it in your own words.
Okay. Well, obviously it's the people, right? The people that I work with every day, all the people that I've met in the past, from patients to leaders to nurses to family members. I mean, it's the people. The worst thing about the pandemic for me was that I could not see my people. I could not see my nurse residents on a regular basis unless, like this, there was a screen between us. I couldn't round in the hospital. I snuck a couple of times, but got caught and their legs stopped. And so, okay, I'm not a typically a Zoomer, right? Or a Teams person. If we're going to have a meeting, I'm coming to your office or you're going to come to mine or we're going to go meet somewhere because I appreciate the face to face. So for me, it's the relationships that I build with people that I really, if I couldn't meet with people face to face, I would not enjoy this job at all. So that's really what makes it for me.
I agree. I agree. And I've told you before about my thoughts on working from home. I know that's some people can do that really well in their roles, and it's been offered to me before to be able to have the opportunity to work from home, but I don't do well on work from home. I prefer to be in person, in the thick of it, with the people, face to face, building those relationships. Definitely, I feel you on that. Let's look
And I'm
at. I'm sorry.
say I'm great for those grateful for those people who are good at that because there are those pieces that are like the behind the scenes that need to be done and you need that, and I'm grateful that those people do those jobs.
Yes. So let's kind of switch it up a little bit and let's talk about what's the most challenging part of being a nurse today in 2025?
I would say from what I have seen, now I've been away from the bedside for almost 10 years, completely away. I would say probably the acuity of the patients in the hospital. Patients are so much sicker now, and the criteria for patients to stay in the hospital. So, especially my new grads, I feel like it's a lot more intense now, and they have to learn so much more, so much more quickly, a lot more thinking on their feet, which makes our jobs as educators even more difficult. And at the same time, the budgets shrink, which, I mean, things cost more money now. That's why I feel like the residency is such an important component because it's not just the clinical skills. It is that you have to be able to make a connection to that patient in about 90 seconds when you walk into that room. It's not, yes, the patient needs medications. Yes, the patient needs IVs, but you have such a short amount of time, such a short window to, build rapport with that patient so that they trust you. I mean, even after COVID and all this stuff, we are still the most trusted profession on the planet, in the universe, right? And that's because we have integrity. And so that is the hardest thing is it's that keeping that integrity and being able to in 12 hours do all the things that we need to do and make sure that our patients are getting the very best care. Our patients are going to get are going to have good outcomes. I mean, ultimately that's what we want them to leave the hospital in better shape than they came in. And so that's why I feel like the relationship building with the residents is so important because it's hard. It's really, really hard. And I don't know about you, but I used to cry in the soiled utility room or like if I was having a bad day or a doctor was on my case or just something wasn't going well, I would just go someplace and decompress and then I would come back. And I don't know if it's resiliency from years and years of, doing it, but that's something just like their skills. The nurses have to learn those things. They have to learn self care. I mean, we didn't even talk about self care before COVID, which makes me smile because I'm really good at self care. No one ever had to tell me to do it. But again, I feel like that's just something you kind of learn. It's that resiliency piece. It's that, know what you have to do to take care of yourself to get yourself back in the hospital. And so now with really sick patients and really limited time and sometimes limited resources, let's be real, the nurse residents um, don't have the luxury of all the great kind of tools and resources that we had. Although I do remind them because we know that prioritization and time management is like their two biggies at the beginning. I remind them you have 12 hours. It's a 12-hour shift. And so they come out with that, I have to do it all by the 9 o'clock med pass. And that's not true. Right. And so being able to give them that avenue of let's talk about it. Let's talk about how you feel when you feel that kind of pressure. What do you do when you feel that kind of pressure? What are the things that you can do to keep yourself from getting in that hole like that, right? So, yeah, I think being a bedside nurse today is really difficult, and I give them a lot of credit. And that's why I really want to support them in the best way that I can.
That's wonderful. That really has wonderful how you can provide so much support and just be that extra layer for them. And I'm just kind of almost tearing up just hearing you talk about that because it's true, right? When you first become a nurse, and I was telling somebody earlier the story of when I first became a nurse. In my very first nursing job, I was 2 weeks in like classroom style hospital orientation, got to the unit, and it was here's your 5 patients, here's somebody you can ask questions to. Good luck, Godspeed, kind of thing. And I did. I was crying every day. I didn't feel supported. Doctors were mean and they would yell at you and they would call you stupid in front of the patients. And patients were not very kind and they would yell at you and I was kicked and I was grabbed and I had a lot of things that were happening to me that really made me question, do I even want to do this? Like, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And so I can just imagine if I would have had that extra layer of support, how much easier that transition would have been for me.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. I had an excellent preceptor at St. Mary's Hospital. Her name was Suzanne, and she was tough. She was German. She was 6 feet tall, blonde hair, blue eyed, and I was scared to death of her. So I did whatever she said, but she was also so spot on the way she spoke to the patients. And so I could probably recite even today discharge instructions on certain things because I did it just the way Suzanne taught me, because it was really, to the point, effective. The patients understood. So, and I feel like it's really important to have good role models. And so Suzanne inspired me to be a good role model.
I love that. So just kind of moving on, how has nursing changed you as a person throughout this 30 years? How has it changed you?
That's a great question. So it has changed me a lot. In fact, I was telling somebody the other day, I kind of feel like it's come full circle. My mom actually used to ask me, "Do you act like this at work?" And I would be like, "Yes. I mean, I'm me all the time. I also had two younger sisters. And so sometimes I probably wasn't as nice to them as I could have been, right? But she would say, "You don't have any compassion." And I would say, "I am a nurse. I have like loads of compassion. Like, why would you say that?" Well, she was partly right. I think the reason that I loved the ICU so much was because I ran the show. I went in, I got my assignment. I had total control of everybody that came at the bedside, including the physicians. I'd be like, "Hi, Dr. So and so, can I help you?" And he'd be like, "That's my patient." And I'd be like, "Great, I'm your nurse. What can I do for you?" Right. And mom said, "Lighten up a little bit," right? And so I was affectionately known. Orientation with me in the ICU was affectionately known as Marla Boot Camp. Cringe, right? And honestly, those are the things that inspired me. That and the fact that our leaders, bless their hearts. I mean, after 20 some years in Texas, I say bless your heart a lot. But they did the best they could, but they didn't have the training to be the leaders that we have today, right? So I was like, well, between me not being always an effective preceptor, let's just say that, hey, I put out some darn good nurses, but at the same time, they probably thought, holy cow, she's like tough, right? Leadership skills became very important to me, which is why I pursued a master's degree in nursing leadership first. And then, of course, once you have that kind of education, you have to share. I mean, I'm like, I want to run around and make sure everybody has the same kind of skills that I learned. And so that's where I feel like Marla boot camp in the ICU to Marla at the other end of her career, like hugging nurses in the hallway. Nobody would even believe that, honestly. They'd have been like, "Did you see Marla hug that nurse? Really?" So that is full circle for me. So, yes, mother, I have compassion. I have loads of compassion now because I've been through it, right? I've been all the way through it, and I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I know how it feels when you have somebody that gives you a hug or says, "You know what? It's going to be great. Don't sweat it. We're going to have a great day."
That's awesome. So speaking of compassion, so we're going to turn it to the other side. And being an ICU nurse, this may be something that you have had to deal with. Have you ever faced burnout or compassion fatigue? And if so, how did you cope with that?
I think everybody does to a certain extent. I feel like with myself, I love change. And I know people don't like to hear that. Most people don't like change, but I probably should be a little bit more clear. I like change that I can control. I mean, let's be honest, right? So I guess when I felt like I wasn't being inspired every day, or I wasn't learning something, or I wasn't feeling motivated to keep doing what I was doing, it would make me hungry for something new. And so that's what I did. I love going to school, and I would be in school right now if somebody else paid for it. But, and that's basically what I did. Every time I felt like myself feeling like there's got to be something better, or there's got to be something more, or I need to learn this. That's why travel nursing was so exciting for me because, 13 weeks to 6 months, sometimes depending on where I was, I had an opportunity to work with a whole, group of people in a whole entirely different city, get most of the time new skills. And so it just was fresh and new and fresh and new. And so I feel like that's the beauty of being in healthcare in general. You can always find a job to fit your life instead of making your life fit your job. So, when you start feeling yourself, and again, there are things you should do, self care first and foremost. I take really good care of myself, but it has taken some time, right? To learn good habits. I mean, I'm sure all of us probably have things that we like to do. I love to travel. I am 40 some days from South America. I read. I like to walk. I like to play with the dog. Anything that gets me away from thinking about the day, or maybe the stress or what's going to come tomorrow. And I tend not to worry. My faith is really important to me. And so, give it to God. I'm like, I'm not going to worry about this anymore. So I feel like those are some strategies that I've used in my own career and in my own life that have kept me in nursing all these years and still ready to go. 10, I don't know, 15 more years. We'll see.
I tell people all the time, I'm probably going to be working till lunch on the day of my funeral. I don't know. I love what I do. I think that I would get bored easily if I didn't have something to do. So I
Right.
feel you on that. I lunch on the day of my funeral. That's going to be
Well,
when I
and
retire.
and again, and I am inspired that the younger nurses and the second career nurses are really striving to have a good work-life balance, because we didn't always do that, and I know COVID was really rough and nobody really wants to talk about it. I actually like to talk about the silver linings of COVID, but that's probably an entirely different question. But I feel like those are the strategies that I have learned through the years and talking to people, which is why I know that my role is so important, because I don't want a nurse who's been out of school for 3 months and now has been 6 months on the floor, to feel so overwhelmed that she really is, trying to decide, was this the right choice? Did I make the right choice by going into nurse? So, and I'm like, just stick with it. I'm like, let me help you. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about strategies that we can do.
So, Marla, what advice would you give someone that is just starting nursing school? They just started nursing school. This is what they think they want to do for the rest of their lives. What advice would you give them?
Whew, that's a tough one, because it's probably different than I would have said 10 years ago, for sure. It's still an excellent choice for a career. And now there are so many more careers in nursing than there ever were. I mean, there are jobs now that didn't exist when I first became a nurse. I mean, they just didn't exist. And the opportunities actually went, my bachelor's program, I went to school with a nurse who never touched a patient after clinical, and she still is practicing nursing, but that was just not her thing. So if you have compassion for people, and you have to, I mean, you have to have compassion for people, just stick it out, right? And it's hard. Nursing school is really hard. I do remember it. I remember nursing school and how painful it was sometimes. But nursing school will prepare you well. And then, look around the places that you have your clinical rotations. Look at the culture, the people that you would potentially be working with, and what type of support do they have for their current nurses? And is it a place where you could picture yourself working? I know that when nurses get in nursing school, and they have that first assignment, or that first clinical placement, and everybody wants to work in the NICU or everybody wants to work in the ICU. And honestly, about 50% of the nurse residents tell me they are not where they thought they would be when they started nursing school. So I guess probably the most important thing is be open minded. You don't know until you try it, right? You won't know until you try it. And give yourself some grace. You're not going to be perfect. None of us are, right? Stress over perfection in everything and take care of yourself while you're going to nursing school. I personally never crammed for a test overnight. I just was not that girl. I could not stay up all night and study for a test. I scheduled study time like I did an appointment, and my family, they knew how important it was to me to be, sectioned off in a part of the house and nobody bothered me. So you really have to structure it to set yourself up for success.
Right. And setting those boundaries with your family, you did that. You set those boundaries. You're
Absolutely.
like, this is my study time. It's really, I think this generation has difficulty disconnecting, right? Because we're always accessible, right? We're always accessible by phone or by, we have Apple Watches, so we can get notifications there. So it's really, really hard to separate yourself from your family and friends to say, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be studying from this time to this time. Please don't call me. Please don't text me. And let me have that time to be able to really focus.
Yes. Do not disturb is the best feature on the phone. I use it all the time. I use it in meetings at work. I use it when someone comes into my office and wants to talk. I use it when I'm rounding. And if someone says, "Can we go?" I say, "To the soil utility room," right? I hit do not disturb on my phone because I want them to have my undivided attention. And so that is a treat for yourself, is to give yourself the permission to set do not disturb on your phone so that you can get what you need.
And I love how you said that. Give yourself permission, right? Give yourself permission to tell people, no, I am not available for you right now, but I will be available for you later in 2 hours, right? I love that. So if you're listening, remember, give yourself permission to do these things.
It's funny because everybody that knows me, even the residents, my phone is on do not disturb from 9 p to 5 a, and there are literally 5 people or 5 families that can call me, and the number will ring. And my residents work night shift, but I promise them that I get up at 4 every day. Yes, even still today, get up at 4 every day, and I will text you when I get up, and I will see you before you leave if that's what you need, because I get myself to the hospital early in the morning because I want to be that support for the night shift. So, if you're having a bad night and 11 o'clock, you're like, I just really need to text her, then do so. And again, because I need sleep or I'm not going to be very friendly at 6:30 in the morning, but I will be there for you when you need me. So give yourself permission.
Love that. Absolutely love it. So, Marla, what do you wish for the people out there that may be listening that are not nurses? What do you wish that they understood about nurses and what nurses do?
Wow. I would probably venture to guess that most people have probably watched some sort of medical show on TV. It's not really like that. That's what I really want them to know, is it's not. I mean, there are nuggets of truth, but you know what? I can honestly tell you I have not had an affair with any good-looking doctor. Although we've had some really good-looking doctors. There's not been any hanky-panky in the doctor's lounge or whatever. I mean, it is what it is, right? Intense. It is very intense. And I mean, our goal when you come to get treatment, we know, general public, that you're sick and that you don't feel well. But that's what we want. We want you to come to us. And so I think we want you to trust us. We want you to trust that we've had we've been trained, we've got the education, we've got the competency. And so, but you just need to talk to us and tell us what's going on with you. And I feel like, sometimes, especially patients that I've taken care of, are like, well, I didn't even want to come to the hospital because this, and this. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry that you felt that way, but none of those things are true. Right. So I don't know. That's kind of a hard thing because there are so many misconceptions, and and unfortunately you read things online and you see things on the news and it's one in a million, and now you don't trust anybody. I mean, literally, we are still the most trusted profession. And so we are here for you. We want to take care of you. We want the best for you, but we also expect to be treated with respect. We expect you to treat us like people because we are human. And I feel like it's, mutual respect. You respect who we are and what we've gone through to take care of you. That's the that's the ticket, right? That's the key. And I feel like general public, most people are so grateful. Most patients are so grateful, as evidenced by the literally hundreds of thousands of Daisy nominations every month by people who say, I had the best nurse in the world, or this is the best hospital I've ever been to, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like generally people get it, but I just feel like don't read a lot into things you hear and read about. Just go to the source, go to the source. And I also tell the residents too that you are officially now the expert on everything medical for your entire family. So just expect to be that resource. And I give them this advice. And my sister Terry can can swear to this. When she calls me with something, I say, Terry, if you're worried enough to ask me, you should go get it checked out. She and I laugh, and I'm not even going to tell you the rest of the conversation because she probably will listen to this. But, we are not experts in everything, right? And so please take care of yourselves. And if you need help, please come and get help. That's what I want people to know.
I think that's very sound advice. Very sound advice. All right, Marla, where do you see the future of nursing heading? We are in a era of transition. I guess, technology is blooming and we are really kind of transitioning from the way nursing used to be, where, everything was very manual. And now we have all of these resources and all of these tools and all this technology to help us. We have computerized health systems and we have, AI that can help us with catching things, help us with our clinical decision making. And then we have electronic vital signs machines and heart monitors and so much technology at our fingertips. Where do you see nursing heading?
Well, first of all, I'm a little jealous because I love technology and I try to incorporate as much technology as I can into seminars and classes for the residents because I know that's what they expect. And I mean, honestly, when I go to a conference, I expect it too because there is so much good technology out there. It's interesting because probably 10 years ago, we were talking one day, well, maybe it's probably been more like 15 years ago. A group of ladies that I worked with in the ICU, we were like, what would be the ideal retirement job as a nurse? And I said, I am going to be kicked back at home in my robe and fuzzy slippers. I am going to have on a headset with a camera, and I'm going to be talking to a nurse at the bedside in a hospital halfway across the country. And I'm going to be with her the whole time while she does her assessment, while she talks to the physician, while she talks to the patient and the family, while she administers the medications. I am going to be with her the entire 12-hour shift. And lo and behold, here we are. So they stole my idea. Unfortunately, I didn't get rich from it, but I mean, that was only 15 years ago that we were talking about those things. I use, for what it is, I use AI literally almost every day, personally and professionally. I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT and Gemini because why not glean the best information in the fastest way possible, right? Of course, I always kick it up a notch because I'm like I need peer-reviewed references for that information. And I get it. So I feel like as long as that happens, I'm confident in the information that I'm getting is reliable. Telehealth has really taken off. I know my family members use telehealth. I don't know. Maybe there will be pods. I know that now being in this part of the country again, rural areas do not have a lot of healthcare options. So, sometimes people drive 40 or 50 miles even to get to an urgent care, let alone a hospital. Here in this area, there are some critical access hospitals which are just crucial because it's the Midwest and everything is so spread out. So I don't know, but I'm excited to see what it's going to be. And I feel like electronic medical record was probably the best thing that happened to us as bedside nurses. I told the nurses, when all this first started, that you have never lived until you have had to transcribe 16 admission pages from the physician with the worst handwriting in the hospital. Like, it's painful, y'all. So it's just, there are so many things, but at the same time, I don't want nurses to feel like we're going to be squeezed out. There's no possible way. That compassion, that human element is always going to be needed. I don't care how cute the robot is that delivers my tray or how charming, you know, the the driver that maybe taxis me to my, the little computer driver that taxis me to where my car is parked in the parking lot. Nothing is going to take our place at the bedside. Nothing. But I feel like all of the advancements in technology hopefully will make our jobs more efficient so that we can have more time at the bedside doing that hand holding and that patient education and that and spending time with those families who are ultimately going to end up taking those sick patients home a lot faster than they used to. That's what I
I
see.
agree. It's wonderful. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, making sure that we understand that the technologies are tools to help us do better. And, I think I have heard a little bit about, nurses being a little worried that their roles would be eliminated and that there won't be a place for nursing in the future. But there's definitely a place because that's the core and the heart of what nursing is that caring human element that only a human can provide. No robot, no technology can replace that.
That is true. Very true. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, what are your hopes for this next generation of nurses? I would love to hear what you aspire for these new nurses coming in.
Well, it's the same thing I aspire for the nurses that we have today. I want them to be competent. I want them to be safe. I want them to be confident because regardless of what happens in healthcare, what changes we have, that's the core of who we are. Our integrity is literally who we are. And so I just want to remind everyone that we're nurses all the time, whether we're at work or not, because people look up to us. And so I think that's sometimes hard. And even in my own life, when I was younger, I was like, when I'm off the clock, I'm off the clock. I'm going to do whatever I want. No, nope. It comes back around, right? And people are like, wow, she's a nurse. And I'm like, and so now I remind the residents that people watch you all the time. If you're wearing scrubs and a badge and you're rude to somebody at the grocery store, you just made us all look bad, right? If you cut somebody off and your license plates say Mary RN, thank you. Thanks for making us all look bad, right? I mean, it is what it is, especially in the world today where, and my hope is that we're compassionate and inspiring to patients. But unfortunately, there are going to be so many more avenues that people can be critical of us. I mean, you never know when you're being filmed or recorded. There's cameras everywhere, and I tell my new grads, please be smart, right? You worked really hard to get here. And I am guilty of making some of the mistakes that I'm going to warn you not to do, right? Because thankfully, I'm still here to talk about it. And hopefully you learn from my mistakes. But, our integrity is all we have as nurses. And so it's really important that we keep that in mind moving forward. But everything else will still be what it is. I mean, we have to be caring, compassionate people who put other people first every single day, right? And again, competent, safe, and confident is my hope for them.
Thank you so much, Marla. Thank you for being on the show today. And just thank you for all of the great advice, the great tidbits, the wisdom, the peek behind the curtain. It means a lot. And I think, sometimes we make a lot of assumptions, right? Based upon, well, you're a nurse, just like you said, you're a nurse. So we make a bunch of assumptions about who somebody is
Right.
as a person and how they live and how they're supposed to live based upon just the fact that they're a nurse. And so it really helps to kind of have this view and this, again, peek behind the curtain, peek behind the scrubs, and letting people know that we are still people and we are regular people just like you. We are
Yes, we are.
human.
We do dumb things. We say dumb things, and we apologize because we realize that we are human, right? And I think probably the most important thing is I've learned to give myself grace. You have to. You have to give yourself grace. And so have just, yeah, grace. Grace is the best advice, I would say. And I know so many caring, compassionate nurses, bedside nurses, leaders, nurses who have ventured into education, scholastically and still clinically. It's just such a great profession. I really am grateful that I did it. And honestly, I really didn't have any other plan. So I'm glad this thing panned out, to be honest, because I don't know what to be a nurse. And I'm like, but he's like, what's the backup plan? I'm like, I don't really have one, Dad. He's like, okay. And so here we are 30 years later. So I'm pretty glad it worked out.
Great. Thank you again, Marla, for coming today.
My
So, we are
pleasure.
going to wrap up
Absolutely.
the show. Basically, now I just want to talk to you guys about what you can expect from Why We Nurse. We will be talking to nurses from all walks of life: ICU warriors, school nurses, travel nurses, new grads, and seasoned pros. We'll dive into the challenges, the triumphs, the burnout, the breakthroughs. We'll laugh, cry, and we'll learn. Most importantly, we will build a community. If you're a nurse with a story to share, I'd love to hear from you. You can reach out on Instagram at Why We Nurse or email me at whywenursepodcast@gmail. Thank you so much for tuning into this first episode. If it resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow nurse. Next week, we'll be talking to a new nurse who transitioned from student to nurse resident. Don't miss it. Until then, stay strong, stay compassionate, and remember why you nurse.